Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything. I'm coming back at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In this video, what we're going to be doing is this is part 2 of my M4 Sherman medium tank construction video, and we're going to go ahead and start in on the finishing steps. This is the painting and applying decal step. Set that off to the side. I've already assembled this model in step 1, and this is the flat olive drab from Testers, and so this looks good on this wood. For me, I think this looks pretty good just with a primer coat on the table. But because I'm not going to say a perfectionist, but I'm a completionist. I'm going to have to go through and actually finish what we started here. Decal set. Now I've been using microsol decal set. In the before times, I used this Aeromaster. I haven't really found it, but I found microsol out there, and so I've been using it. It seems to be working pretty good. All right, now in this video, we're going to apply decals. We're going to apply washes. We're going to apply rust, mud. We're going to apply a lot of things to this tank. There's going to be drying time, and so you're not going to get a one-to-one video. I'm going to have to edit out drying time. Okay, so I want to put on the side of the tank, on the front piece there, I want to put a title. I've got The Bomb, Sabine Sally, or Billy Boys. Well, I think I'm going to put The Bomb, because that just seems like a more appropriate title. And for some reason, my X-Acto knife wanted to cut in a circular pattern. There we go. We got the bombs without destroying anything else. Now, I'm not going to put any of these letters or numbers. Those might have been, they might have been on this sheet for the British, because this tank can be American or British. Okay. Okay, I got my tweezers out because that's another thing I need. Okay, so we apply the bomb decal. Okay, yeah, that's right. I'm going to need 2 of these. Apply the bomb decal into the water. I'm going to apply the second bomb decal just seconds later into the water. I completely 100% submerge it. Now we're going to let that sit for a moment. Now, during that moment, I'm going to take this microsol and I'm going to apply it to the 2 places that are going to receive the decal. I've heard people call it a decal. It's not a decal, it's a decal. And I'm just going to put it on that front armor plate on both sides and just let it ride. And we'll get back to more of this in the future. Okay. Now I have this wax paper down here mainly because when I start doing washes and things like that, I will be washing the tracks, and when I do that, it will maybe drip off of it, and I don't want to get the wash all over this. It's okay if I get it on that. Okay, so now with my brush, I make sure to see if the balm will easily slide off the paper. So I pick up the paper with my tweezers, and then I apply the balm on top of the microsol. Now I'm just going to put it directly in the middle. Okay, this paper can go pretty much anywhere. Get some paper towel to soak up the water, but in the process I'm going to make sure the balm is actually straight. There. Push a little bit, give it a little pressure, and soaking up all the water. Okay, now we're going to do it again on the other side. Tweeze the paper. Whoa. Slide the balm off. I like to use my brush here to make sure I get it kind of in the right spot. Looks like it's perfect, so I'm just going to apply pressure, and it's also soaking up any excess water. Pressure is really important on a textured decal. Like if you've got ridges and bumps, you want to apply some pressure to get that decal to go down inside of all those ridges and stuff. But in this case, that's really not that necessary. And right now this tank looks too clean, right? The balm on both sides. Exactly. It just looks way too clean. All right, now the next thing I'm going to be using are these 3 stars. I'm going to put 1 on the front hull and 2 on the side of the turret. Okay. Okay, now I've got 2 things of water. So we're going to start it flipped. I'm going to have it go face up. There we go. Submerge it. I'm not submerging the second one just yet. I'm going to microsol where I want that first star. And I want that first star right here. Well, while we're out, let's go ahead and this star is going to go here and there. And that prepares the paint to accept a decal. Okay, now before I pull this one out, I'm going to throw the second one in. So it's kind of like a assembly line process. Does this star move? No, it's not moving on the paper just yet. Oh, it just started moving. Okay. Okay, it's moving enough. And remember, the star points go up, not down. This is not a demon tank. All right, got the star where it needs to be. I'm going to have to soak up the water, letting the decal kind of grip to where it's supposed to be. And now I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure. But because it's on a flat surface, that pressure is not that important. What you're doing is you're getting air bubbles out and getting water out from underneath the decal as well. Okay, that turret is done. This has already been prepped. Okay, 1 star in, going with the 2nd star. It flipped. But we know that star is probably ready to move. Yep. Okay, we got to kind of centralize it. Turn the star face up. Okay, there's a little bit of maybe too much water there. It's too floaty, like it's floating. Okay, that looks like a really good spot right there. That looks good. Now let's go ahead and... That star is a little bit on the texture side, so what we need to do is apply some good old American pressure, so that it'll fit around that little bump right there. That armor, that extra armor on the turret right there. If I had thought about it, I wouldn't have put the star close to that armor. Okay, so let's go down here. Well, let's make sure it moves. It does. Slide it off. Oh, that was really good. Almost perfect straight up and down. But now I have to check to see if it's across from the other one. Oh, it is. It's almost exact. Okay, perfect. Okay. So far, so good. Now the serial numbers, or the license plate numbers, or whatever you want to call it. But it usually says USA and a number right here on the bottom of the back armor plate. You can choose any of these USA license plates. Let's see, does any really stand out to me? Actually, the 757 kind of stands out to me as being pretty cool. So let's go ahead and cut that out. Let's take this 757 and soak it. Okay, and the other side is also a 757. That looks good. Okay. Next step, sol. You know that. Solvent, solution. I don't know what sol stands for. Put it right there on the bottom. It won't hurt anything to get it. Put a little bit, cover too much area. Okay. First area looks like it's good to go, but before I pull, I'm going to plant this other one in the water. Submerging it. There you go. Get under there. Okay. This other one is moving. Tweezers. Use the soft brush to hold it in place while I pull the paper away. Put it where it belongs. Slide it in place. Get the majority of the water off of there. That looks good. Okay. The other one should be ready by now. It is. Okay. All right, use the brush while it's still kind of floating on the water to get it in the right spot. And then soak the water off of it. Okay, so you got a serial number, you got the bomb, you got a star there, you got 2 stars there. And that's it. That's it for the decals. There's no other decals needed. We're not putting an American flag on the back, even though a lot of times they would have an American flag right there. We're not doing that. It's a setting solution. So you don't only put it underneath, but you also put it on top. So, and you want to be careful because what this does is it melts the decal into the paint. So you dab it on, but you don't touch it or brush it. Okay, we're going to have to put a little rust specifically there to cover up that mistake. Part of this decal broke off just in this time, and I don't see it laying around anywhere where it needs to go on. That was the first decal that I put on, first of the numbers. I don't know, somehow I broke it off. But this setting solution, you don't want to brush it on because it softens the decal to the point where you might damage the decal if you brush. So just dab it on. And what it does is it melts, because it's softening the decal, it melts it onto the model. So it'll conform with all the shapes of the model. Okay, so this is actually a good opportunity for me to do this. Now that I have a damaged decal, what I'm planning on doing is ensuring that I have some flaked paint or rust specifically in the spot there that in that corner where it would have damaged whatever serial number would have been on there, right? Okay, so we're gonna let that dry. That setting solution, it takes 10 minutes to dry, so we're gonna let that dry. Okay, so I've got a couple of metals here that we're gonna be working with. We're gonna be working with natural steel and then gunmetal. I'm gonna go ahead and use the gunmetal first, and I'm just gonna use a drop, maybe even less than a drop. A drop right there in my palette or palette. Getting a brush. Now there's a couple of things on here that I want to paint with the gunmetal. One of them, well, all the machine guns, basically. That's it. Just the machine guns. So we look at the little machine gun sticking out of the barrel, out of the turret. Done. The machine gun sticking out of the hole. Done. And the 50 cal on the top. Not the ammo can, just the machine gun. Not the bracket that's holding it up, just the gun itself. Okay, so we got all three machine guns with gunmetal. Now, I still have a drop of gunmetal in there. I'm going to add a drop of natural steel to it. There we go. Gunmetal, natural steel, I can put those away. Kind of stirring them up a little bit. What the natural steel will do, it'll take a little bit of the black out of the gunmetal. Gunmetal is supposed to be like a metal that has some bluing on it. But I don't want that for the thing that I'm about to paint. I'm painting the, I'll be painting the shovel, the axe, the pick head, and then but the main thing that I'm really going to be painting is this chain and the breaker bars. Those will also be this color. Now I'm going with something a little bit finer point. That's a double O. This is an O and it has a finer point. Okay. But I need that fine point for the breaker bar. And it's going to be okay to get rust on the shovel and the breaker bar and the chain, because they are in fact steel, so they would rust in the field. Yeah, I ordered this tank from Warlord Games 2 months ago. They were out of them. And then I ordered again about a month ago. And I got it. I've been looking forward to putting this thing together and painting it. Okay, so there's a bar. Now the main thing is the chain. Toe chain. Just got to be careful, got to be patient, take your time. Luckily this chain sticks up quite a bit, so it should be fairly easy to paint. And again, if I make any mistakes, a little paint on the hull or whatever, my weathering is going to fix any of those mistakes. Yeah, that chain's starting to look really good. It doesn't look anything like a chain. It looks like a cable. So let's start calling it a tow cable. Have you read Team Yankee? This is a book that I read, I don't know, way back in the 80s, where this M1 platoon was riding across a open field that had been cleared. So there were tree stumps, and this one tank kind of went over this tree stump, but not perfectly. So the tree stump went directly underneath the center of the tank, and it kept the tank from moving because only one, either left or the right track would be on the ground. The other one would be up off the ground. And the crew took their tow cable, which I thought this was kind of like a genius move, but it might be something they teach. I mean, I didn't know, but they took their tow cable and they tied one end to each track so that when the tank drove and the tracks went under the tank, it dragged the tow cable across that tree trunk, caught the tree trunk, and it pushed the tank off of the tree, well, the stump. It pushed the tank up off the stump. And then they just go out, untie the tow chain from the tracks, and drive on. And I was like, wow, that was like smart. Engineering 101. Back when the M1 was a brand new tank. I mean, all those 80s tanks are still the same tanks that are driving around nowadays. It's like every country's tank is like 40 years old. Right? You got the T-80s, Leopard 2, the Challenger. You know, those are all 40 years old. A bunch of the insides have been tuned up, like they probably gave them like better computer systems and stuff. But there hasn't been a really big improvement in armored vehicles since the 80s. I mean, they're working on it and stuff. They're working on lasers and junk. I don't know. Okay. Tow cable. Nice. Okay. I need some wood, and then that's pretty much done for the detail painting. And I need so little of it, just this axe head and this shovel. That's it. So we're just going to use a super tiny drop, which wound up being giant. Okay. That's okay. All right, wood. That looks good. Okay, so they got a shovel, right? I'd hate to be the guy that has to dig the fighting position for a tank. I hated digging a fighting position for 2 people. I could only imagine a frickin' tank. How much that would be. Oh, the axe. I was like, what else? The only real drying time that we're going to have to wait for is going to be the washes. Okay, just glancing around the vehicle, just seeing if there's anything I really missed, like horribly missed. Nope. And I don't see anything up here. The lights I'm going to do later. Oh yeah. The 2 little handles at the back of an M50, I'm sorry, M2 heavy barrel, 50 caliber, are wooden. What do they call it? A butterfly grip. I think that's what they call it. All right. Okay, that'll take like little or no time to dry. So what I'm going to do is while you're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and prepare the wash. That's my wash basin. Okay. We're going to do a strong tone over the entire tank. I am going to use Quick Shade Wash Medium on this first coat of wash, because there's going to be multiple coats. On this first coat of wash, I think I'm going to put a 1 to 2 for a total of 3 drops. But it'll be I got to kind of estimate how many drops am I going to need for this entire thing. 10, 15, 10, 15, we'll call it 15. So I'm going to give 5 of this, 10 of that. Hell, let's give it 6. All right. 1 for good measure. That was strong tone. That's the mid brown. Okay. Okay. 10 of this. Okay, there's 10 drops of that. Okay, going with a fairly large brush. This is a number 4 brush. I'm going to stir this up. Until it's thoroughly mixed. And here we go. I'm going to work from the top down. Covering everything, even the axes and the breaker bars and the engine compartment, the turret ring, the air vents, the hatches, the front turret, the cannon mount, the lights, machine gun for sure, and the decal. Got to make sure you cover the decal with the wash. Okay, let's get the back side. I made a pretty good estimate, but I think I was just a little bit light on my estimate on this wash. That's going to be mostly brown in the back here, but we're going to go ahead and put the tone. Okay, now I know those tracks are going to be completely different. When we're going to get the side, get the bomb, make sure we get the USA on that side, and then the same, the bomb. But on this case, we're going to put a lot of wash in the back. Okay. And then with whatever leftover wash that I've got, which isn't a lot, we're going to get the sides. But again, this is only the first wash. All right, so we're going to let that sit. Oh, no, dang, I totally forgot about that guy. That'll give me a little extra for his if I really mix it. If that was 15, this should be less than 10. I'm going to say 8. 9. So that's 3 drops of this. And 1 for good measure. Okay. That's my math. And then, so what is that? That's 6 drops of this, right? And this is exactly why we've got the wax paper down. So just in case, as the wash drips off the side, if it does, it gets on the wax paper and not my cutting mat. Okay. How many drops? Did I put 10 drops in there? It seems really dark. You know what? Fine. It just seems really dark. Okay, so I'm going to hold the barrel. Yeah. This seems like a darker wash. I'm going to get over everything. The gun, the mantlet, the back, the door on the side, the decals for sure, the antenna, sure, why not, and the decal underneath the back. There we go. We got to get the gun and its ammo can, the all around the cupola. Yeah, this is extra thick. I must not have put the same number of drops in there. Okay, maybe I'm mistaken. I don't know. Need to get the barrel last. There we go. Get both sides, top and bottom. Okay. I'll let that dry. Now, while I have a little extra, get these bogey wheels. On both sides. All right, so let's let this dry. It's going to take probably an hour for this to dry. Yeah, so let's give it some time. Now, you can already see details popping out from that wash, but yeah, we got to keep that going. Let's let that dry, and then we'll be right back. All right, so this is, I'm going to say probably 90% dry. It's been sitting here for about an hour. I can still see some water pooling up around the vent there and around the vents back here, but that's perfectly okay because my next step is going to be applying rust, and when I apply the rust, if there's a little bit of wash and it mixes with the wash or whatever, that's fine. So let me explain how this process is done. I take a piece of foam. This is foam rubber that you get in a miniature blister, and then you can see it's very porous. And what I did was I cut it into 4 pieces. So this is 1/4 of a foam rubber piece that would have came in a blister. Plus I'm going to use Necromancer's Cloak. Now you can use German gray or just really dark gray or maybe a gray-black mix. That's fine, but Necromancer Cloak is actually a really dark gray, and so we're going to use that. That's the rusty steel, and then I'm going to use dry rust as a, what do they call it? Effect. Okay, so what we take is the Necromancer Cloak. And we put just one very small drop, or just one drop, in one of my palette bowls. And then I'm going to put probably 2 or 3 drops of this dry rust in there. One, 2, 3. Okay. Now it needs to be mixed, so I'm just going to use a brush to mix this. Now you might notice, make it easier this way, that as you mix this rust with the Necromancer's Cloak, it starts turning dark. It's almost like when you add a black to any paint, it starts to, okay, that's not dark enough. That's more of a brown, and I want it to be more of a gray. So I'm going to add, I think the drop that I put in was a little too small. Put a second one in. Oh, I can also feel it's a little liquidy. Maybe I didn't shake it up enough. We're getting there. It's not exactly there yet. Let me shake this up some more. Okay, there we go. Now we've got a gray with a little bit of this red tint to it. That's exactly what I wanted. Okay, so we got to get most of this paint back in the, off the brush. Take our foam, and what I do is I fold the corners up, all four of them. So now, and I hold it, I pinch it. Now I have got like a little, you can actually probably buy these at like your local, like Walmart or whatever. I think I've seen brushes with foam rubber at the end. The problem is I have to throw this away after every use. Okay, now we get the rust mixture on there. I pat it off on here because we don't want that much. We want just a little bit, like, okay, like this much on the tank. Now, the first place I want to make sure I hit is that missing decal area. There we go. I don't know if you can see that. And then mostly corners, places where you think rust might show up. And you want to anywhere that there is a curve or an edge where the tank might brush up against a tree or something like that, you definitely want to put a rust spot there. Okay. And you want it to be dappled and not solid. You want it to be kind of, yeah, so it's better to, just like a dry brush, you want to get most of it off. Okay. Now I also want to put it on the tracks. Or I should say the bogey wheels and all that stuff. Now, without dipping it in more paint, because I think it's actually still has quite a bit on there, we're going to hit this top turret. Not so much the gun, because that's going to be well maintained. And it's okay to get it on the cross, or the star, I mean. Yeah, it's actually good to get it on the star. Okay. Okay. Okay, I might need to get just a little bit more and brush most of it off. Okay. Okay. And that's it for the rust. There's an old saying that artists use. It's called less is more. So you don't want to have too much on there to make it look like you just painted it brown. So we're going to let that dry and finish. Throw that away because you don't need that anymore. Okay, we got some mud going on, and then we're going to have another wash on top of everything. See, now that cross does, or that, I keep calling it a cross, that star doesn't look clean white anymore, right? And then you got a little bit of the USA there, and you got this huge amount of rust. Back there covering up what looks like it would have been the USA and the number. When it dries, that rust effect will really come out. It doesn't look like much now in the palette, but once it dries, it'll, for some reason, I don't know what the chemical compound is, but it makes it really look like rust. Like that already looks like it's rusted. And this is plastic. Okay, now before we put this thick mud on, what we're going to do is we're just going to apply a straight coat of mid-brown to the track area. Let me go back to my wash area, which is this. No quick shade or anything. I mean, no medium, just straight quick shade. Mid-brown. Drop 7 or 8 drops in there. I think this is a good brush for this. Right on top of the rust and everything, just everything. Now I'm getting it down inside, underneath the tracks, between the bogie wheels. That's where the flat area, the hull, the chassis. I'm going to get it all up inside the compartment there. It's pretty exaggerated, isn't it? That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Okay, now we're going to switch it. And we're going to see if we can. We might not have enough. Yeah, it doesn't look like we're going to have enough. Yeah, maybe I need to give me like another 2 drops. Got to get it all in, all the bogey wheels, suspension, and then up underneath. And on the tracks that are exposed. Like not the part that's on the ground, but the part you can see. Oh, wow. All right. Like the front of the tracks. Okay. The part that would be driving through the mud, right? Or through the dirt, or, you know. And it's okay to get it up on the splatter guard, or whatever they call that. Like that. Don't need any under there. That's not necessary at all. Maybe a little bit back here. The tops of the tracks that you can see. I think I've already got this. Okay, this side's already gotten. Just a touch up. Using up the last bit of my wash there. Okay. And we're going to let that brown dry just for a few minutes before we actually start applying the thick mud. All right, now the next step here is we're going to apply Vallejo's thick mud. It's got kind of a paste with like a dirty, gritty look to it. You can mix water with this to thin this out. You can mix paints with it or washes or whatever you want to mix with this, you can. Plus you can get this in actually bigger buckets too. It's great for dioramas and things like that. But what we're going to do is we're going to add this to the track area where dirt and mud might have built up. But we're doing it while the wash is wet because that's going to give it more of a flow. Okay, I don't know why I'm shaking that up. It's not something you shake up. Okay, you can see the paste. Now I'm going to use this tester's synthetic brush because it's got kind of a, it's stiff. I mean, you can use anything that would but this is like it's nasty. It's dirty, nasty. It's dirty. And now we're gonna push it down in there, and you can kind of see it starting to thin out with that wash being in there. You can actually use the mud as a adhesive too, because it I think, I don't know this for a fact, but I think there's PVA inside of it. And it's actually best to kind of put more than what you think you need and then spread it around and take off excess. So I'm trying to put a little bit extra down inside there. Now you can apply this with a brush, you can apply it with a sponge. Okay. Sticking it down in there, I'm getting it all over the place. Kind of just painting it on the top, but that's going to just make it look really muddy. I mean, that's what it's supposed to do, right? I don't want the mud to be caked because I want this tank to be serviceable, right? But I do want it to be, like, that's probably too much. This is not an abandoned tank, right? This is a tank that you're going to war game with on the table. Yeah, you want it to be dirty and muddy, but you don't want it to be to the point where that mud's caked on there. If that makes sense. And because it's an acrylic, once you're done, you can clean your brush with water, soap and water. That's what I would do. Don't put streaks. Dabble it on. If it's gonna be on flat surfaces, don't brush it like that, because you're gonna want you don't want it to look like you painted it on. Okay, too much in that little area. Okay. Oh yeah, there's like 0 on the front, so I gotta fix that. Now this is thick mud. They make a thinner mud, which is considered to be mud splatters, and that can work as well. Okay, I think I've got enough mud. I just need to kind of spread it around, get it into places. Now I'm not putting any of the mud up on the turret or anything. Just around the tracks. Or the treads, I should say. Yeah, the tracks, treads. And if I see anything piled up or caked, just, you know, taken away from the details, then I'll look at that. But actually, I think that looks really good on that side. That's starting to look good on this side as well. Okay, that looks really good. All right, now before this mud dries, I'm going to hit it with I'm going to really quickly hit it with a dull coat, and then I'm going to let it dry. And then we'll be back in just a second. All right, here we go. This guy is finished. And it only took me 6 hours from opening the box to finishing this model. Okay, put the turret on. Let's take a close look to it. What I'd like to do is zoom in okay, I guess the camera's blocking the light. So what I'd like to do is zoom in and you get a good view of it. So let's do that. Let's adjust the focus. All right, so there we go. We got mud around the tracks. You can see the decal of the bomb. Put a little drop of blue and then highlighted it with some light blue. The chain or the cable. The toolkits. Mud, the dirt. Machine gun. The rusted over numbers, letters. There's some numbers and letters. This will have to be worked because right now it's a little stiff. There you go, a couple of times. Okay, now it's good. It was just a little stiff there for a minute. All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for coming out and checking out this assembly video and part 2 of my review of the Sherman from Warlord Games, Weatheri model builders. Weatheri model kits for Warlord Games. And I'll catch you in the next one.